who doesn't like money? Well, it's about the green once again, a resource that can turn a normal man into a bloody superhero.
What are your superpowers again? I'm rich.
And when we talk resources, there would only be a handful of people on the planet that would be more resourceful than these hooded nightmares. But it's no shock that not all of them are filthy rich. I mean, if any one of these assassins showed up in front of me and demanded my wallet, I'd gladly give them mine and my friends too for good measure. And besides, it's not like they can't steal my wallet without me noticing. And there's also the fact that they've made a living off of killing people. So making money, well, it should be a fairly simple task for these Terminators. But who amongst them is the richest and who gets the short end of the stick? Before we get into the list, I'd like to mention the fact that I haven't included the demigods. It's not just their wealth, because most of the aspects of Cassandra and Ivar are not quantifiable. I mean, one lived for over 2 millennia and another one is literally Odin reincarnated. So everything about them is way out there. And that's why they're excluded here. Now let's get into the list. Number 8, Altair. This man was the personification of an assassin pilgrim. His entire life was dedicated to the creed from the day he was born to the day he died. Which also means that the man never eyed any riches whatsoever. The creed was all he knew, and despite being the grandmaster at one point, Altair for sure remained attached to the worldly things like money and wealth. In my estimation, Altair is literally the purest form of an assassin that has ever lived, and quite possibly the poorest. Next, number 7, Bayek of Siwa. I can tell you with absolute certainty that despite the fact that Bayek was one of the most feared men of his time, the last thing on his mind was increasing his net worth. Well, proof's in the pudding. Because if you see Bayek's default attire, it's just a band with a Vesek collar and an eagle necklace under it. And his hood, it's literally torn and shredded with holes in it. And if you've played the game, you would know that the story tells us that after Chemo's death, Bayek literally pronounced all attachments and dedicated his life to the creed. A man does not get more focused, but that also means that Bayek is one of the poorest amongst the assassins. Not that he would give a damn, but yeah. The next up on the list, number 6, Arno Dorian. After the death of his father Charles Dorian, Arno would have literally grown up on the streets if not for the generosity of one Templar Grand Master, Francois de la Serre. He's unfortunately one of the not so well off on the list. Not because he comes from a poor background, but primarily because of his father's untimely demise at the hands of Shay Cormac. If we know anything about the Templars, they would have most likely confiscated all of Charles Dorian's wealth to avoid any of his riches being passed down to his son. But somehow I can't ignore the fact that in this scenario, the assassins didn't help one of their own, but instead it was the Templars. But as far as Arno is concerned, despite being a powerful man's son, Arno never got to enjoy the luxuries of life, and he clearly lands at the bottom of the list. Damn you, Shay Patrick. Next, number 5, Connor Kenway. Well, from here on out, the assassins we see are much better off than the ones we saw earlier in the list. And here on the 5th spot, it's Connor Kenway. His is truly a rags to riches story. The man hailing from the small Native American village of Kanian Kahaka, he never enjoyed any form of wealth other than the incredibly beautiful natural habitat that he grew up in. But once Achilles Davenport took Connor under his wing, his life almost changed overnight, and Achilles left nothing to be desired when he honed Connor's skills to superhuman levels and also bestowed upon him his entire wealth when he passed away. Well, clearly Achilles was a father figure to Connor, and when he named Radhanagedun as Connor, he was clearly looking at him as his own son. And also he left a substantial amount of property that Connor inherited because the man literally owned the entirety of Davenport Homestead. Connor in his later years also built a tremendous trade network, a tavern, wood mills, and also dealt with the trade of animal pelts and other resources. So clearly the cash was pouring in abundantly, and even though he's number 5, make no mistake about it, the man had some serious mullah. Next, number 4, Ezio Auditore. Unlike many of the other assassins, Ezio is a man who came from a tremendously wealthy background. Son of a nobleman and a banker in the flourishing city of Florence, Giovanni Auditore, Ezio was born with a silver spoon, and it was only later in his life when the man saw some rough days, once his father and brothers were unjustly hanged for treason. And the crazy thing is, I think he was so empty-handed at that time that him, his mother and his sister probably walked to Monteriggioni. Well, it's not impossible, it's just 60 some kilometers from Florence. Then the man landed in Uncle Mario's villa, and damn did the man raise Monteriggioni out of the ashes or what. When we see the villa and brotherhood, we can see that the place is now flourishing in an unbelievable fashion. It's buzzing with people and has all kinds of trade, and there's also brothels and thieves guilds that not only would have supplied the assassin brotherhood with info from all across Italia, but also would have brought in ridiculous amounts of income. And by the time the Cesare saga had run its course, Ezio owned most of Roma. I mean, the assassins did, but with him being a grandmaster and man of incredible style, it wouldn't be too shocking if Ezio divulged in some vanities from time to time. And although Ezio Auditore renounced all his wealth in Revelations and lived a meager farmer's life during the very end, the man was always blessed with gold and he comfortably sits at the number 4 spot. Next, number 3, Shay Cormac, the assassin who kind of never was. To be honest, I feel Shay always radiated some serious Templar vibes, and the one thing we know undoubtedly is that the Templars always pay their soldiers handsomely, and as soon as Shay joined forces with the Sons of the Father of Understanding, the entire demeanor of the man changed. He was suddenly doing extremely well for himself, and even though the assassins are resourceful when it comes to performing tasks, the Templars are always the ones with the bigger pockets. Before he betrayed the Creed, he was living in the assassin HQ at Devonport Homestead, being babysitted by Liam O'Brien, but once he joined the Templars, man was doing all kinds of history-changing stuff along with the Templar Grandmaster Hayden Kenway. And after the events of Assassin's Creed Rogue transpired, Shay retired and went to live in far Europe, got married and lived a full life with grandchildren and whatnot. So clearly the man never needed another penny after becoming a Templar. This story really makes me want to change allegiances, damn it! Next, number 2, Edward Kenway. Up until the time he became an assassin, the man lived to be rich. His life was all about amassing incredible amounts of wealth and going back to Wales to his wife. And he kinda did that too. I mean, for God's sake, the man was a full-time pirate throughout most of the events of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and the man was raiding large ships and man-o'-wars to rip them off of every last penny. Even though Edward had lost interest in gaining more riches by the time the end arrived, the man was already one of the wealthiest assassins of all time. Well, let's look at the assets. The Jackdaw, the Great Inagua, his own bloody fleet. Sky was the limit for Edward, and despite the bittersweet ending of Black Flag, the man retired in style. He returned home to Britain, got a full pardon from the first Prime Minister of Britain, Robert Walpole, bought a bloody big estate, got married again, and despite living a short life, he lived a merry one. Oh crap, I'm quoting Bartholomew Roberts, aren't I? And now number 1, the Fryes. Not that one. Not those. Not those! My dear people, make no mistake about it, the assassins belong to the underworld. I mean, if we take the setting of every Assassin's Creed game into context, the assassins are always fighting governments, kings, governors, basically all forms of established order. And now take into account the fact that the Fryes literally ran the underworld of London during the Industrial Revolution. The opportunity to make a massive fortune for oneself doesn't get any bigger. And if we know anything about the Fryes, especially Jacob, the man clearly liked to live big. And them being the key pieces of the assassin order during such an important era in history, and the fact that they legitimately own most of London by the time the events of Syndicate had transpired, I can conclude with absolute certainty that Jacob and Evie Frye were the richest assassins in history. And with that, we reach the end of the video, guys, and tell me in the comment section down below who you think is the richest assassin amongst all of them. And if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps tremendously, so support a brother from the Creed. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You do not want to miss any videos about all games Assassin's Creed and more. That's it for today, guys. Stay safe, stay strong, and stay tuned. It's your boy VZX signing out.